Disney's live-action adaptation for Snow White is now only 2 weeks away from coming out, and the box office projections for this movie, they keep getting worse. But I mean, let's be real here, we all know this movie's gonna flop. However, I did a video on this, I don't know, might have been 2 weeks ago at this point. There was an article from Deadline, Snow White hits long lead tracking, will live-action take of Disney classic Whistle a Happy Tune box office forecast. And what was its opening weekend projections? The 3-day start was projected to be $63 to $70 million. Other people projecting roughly $65 million, so somewhere in there. Which, that's not a very good opening weekend. And this is domestic, it's not international. If you do the international, the number will be higher than that. But regardless, your opening weekend is typically going to be your best weekend. And this number right here, it's not very good for an opening weekend. And this projection, this article was from February 7th, so it's from a month ago at this point. Now I'll jump to the Hollywood Reporter here. And this article here, it's from February 27th, so it's a week ago at this point, but it's coming about 3 weeks after that other article that I just looked at. That other article from Deadline had about a $65 million projection, $63 to $70 million opening weekend projection. This article here, Rachel Zegler's Snow White tracking for $53 million box office opening. A few weeks ago it was $63 to $70 million. Now it's down to only $53 million. Uh-oh, folks. I'll read just a little bit here. Disney's Snow White live-action remake starring Rachel Zegler as the iconic princess is tracking to open to $53 million at the North American box office, according to a leading Hollywood research firm. While that's the target number, the range is anywhere from $48 to $58 million. There's sure to be plenty of debate as to whether that would be a solid versus meh start for the spring tentpole. The studio's marketing team will now unleash its final push for Snow White. Disney believes the movie has a perfect runway, considering it will be surrounded by male-driven action fare. Wait, what? Surrounded by male-driven action fare? Yeah, I'm a little confused right now. Those with access to data provided by the National Research Group show that there is high awareness for the movie among its target demos, i.e. younger and teenage girls as well as females of all ages. Oh, okay, so this is actually supposed to be female-driven action fare. I think that might be a typo. It says male-driven, but it's supposed to say female. Maybe that's what it is. So they think this movie is going to do good because women like to spend a lot of money. That must be their logic. Rival studios agree, saying Disney should never be underestimated. Over this past Christmas, many were quick to write off Mufasa's Lion King when it debuted to a troublesome $35 million domestically before taking off and earning north of $700 million globally. On that subject, I'll give you this headline from WDW Pro. From that Park Place, Disney bullies theaters, forcing Mufasa on more theaters than Sonic 3, even as the Hedgehog earns far more. When they say a Hedgehog earns far more, they're talking domestic box office, but I'm just throwing this headline out there. Alright, what else does this article have of note? The $200 million plus tentpole has been a long time in the making. Having been delayed by the pandemic, it also weathered immediate controversy when Zegler, who is of Colombian descent, was cast in the role of Snow White. Did you hear that, folks? It also weathered immediate controversy. The controversy around this movie, it weathered it, according to Hollywood Reporter. Well, I guess maybe they're just talking about casting Rachel Zegler, who's Colombian, to play Snow White, which, Snow White, it is a German fairy tale, one of the Grimm fairy tales. But since it's a German fairy tale, it kind of makes sense that you would cast a German woman to play Snow White. Casting Rachel Zegler, you could say that's just another race swap, something Hollywood's been known to do lately. Are you sure that they weathered the controversy? If you're only projected to have a $53 million box office opening, then I'm not sure I'd be so quick to say that you weathered controversy. Oh, speaking of which, do you think that they weathered this controversy?
I mean, you know, the original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Yeah. Weird. Super weird. So we didn't do that this time.
Do you think they weathered this controversy? You
said you were bringing a modern edge to it on stage. What do you mean by that?
I just mean that it's no longer 1937, and we absolutely wrote a Snow White that is
not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be.
Yeah, I'm not so sure that you've weathered the controversy. I'd call this box office opening pretty low. If it's pretty low like that, to me that implies that, People have some problems with this movie, which means that no, they did not weather any controversy. But I don't know, I'm nobody. I'm not an expert on anything. I'm just a simple, average, pathetic person. What do I know? In a recent interview, the West Side Story actress went on to speak about differences to expect between the 20th and 21st century versions of the Snow White film. It's very important for the public to know that Disney has found this beautiful and delicate balance between the animated classic that everyone knows and loves from 1937.
I mean, the original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her.
Yeah.
Weird.
Super weird.
So we didn't do that this time.
And at the same time introduces it to this new generation. She said, her superpower is her heart. This is just some shallow, generic, dumb statement that frankly anybody could have thought up. There's nothing deep about this. And when they say introduce Snow White to this new generation, what are they trying to say here when they say stuff like this? It's really just code for we need to make this movie woke. We need to update it for modern audiences, that sort of thing. There's no such thing as a modern audience. There's just the audience, and what the audience wants is a great story. These people are trying to convince you that audiences as a whole, they want certain agendas and certain messages to be pushed on them in their movies and their entertainment. DEI, fempowerment. No, audiences just want to be entertained. They don't want to be lectured. They don't want any agendas pushed on them. They just want to be entertained. That's it. They don't want the star of Snow White to be talking about how Snow White is dated, the original movie was dated, how the prince was a stalker. They don't want to see Snow White be turned into some fempowerment icon. They just want you to stick to the original, that's it. Oh, speaking of which, this was from Variety. Rachel Zegler says live-action Snow White backlash is due to passion for the original movie. We're not always going to agree with everyone. I don't know, folks, if I didn't know any better, I'd say that she might be trying to change her tune a little bit. I think she and Disney, they probably know that attacking the fans and attacking the original Snow White, it's not quite a good idea. But at this point, I don't think it's going to matter. The movie's only 2 weeks away, and there's been way too much damage done to this movie for it to have any chance of making money in theaters. This movie also did a ton of reshoots. After all the reshoots, the budget could be as high as $500 million or $500 million. I don't know what the actual budget is though. But this movie though, it's definitely done some reshoots. And if it's done some reshoots, then that's going to drive up its production budget. And the higher its production budget is, the more money it's going to need to make in theaters in order to turn a profit. And between a high production budget and the mountain of controversy that this movie has had, mostly from the star of the movie, Disney's Snow White is probably going to be the biggest guaranteed flop ever. Early box office projections, they're pointing in that direction that this movie's going to flop. I mean, $53 million for a box office opening, that's not going to cut it. It's not going to come anywhere close. And me, I definitely won't be seeing this movie, but I absolutely will be following the box office numbers for it. Have a good day, everyone.